Today I wanted to talk specifically about inverters. And the reason I want to talk about inverters in relation to power supplies is because it was prompted by the forward driving camping show coming up in Perth at the moment, which is on this weekend. It's really to give you the information for you to ask the right questions when you're considering a power pack for what you want to do. So a lot of power packs in the market at the moment, you'll see like the box type, and I have 3 or 4 inverters plugs like this in there, which is great. And you'll think that's going to back up your house and you can do whatever you like with it. The thing you've got to remember is, for the novice, is that if you see a power point like this, doesn't necessarily mean you can plug anything into it you like, because it's still going to be governed by what output it's allowed to have. So for example, the back of four-wheel drive vehicles, not all vehicles, some of them do have the capacity to have a higher wattage, but a lot of them have a 240 volt plug in the back of the vehicle, but it's only rated something like 120 watt. Now 120 watt as an output is only something like a laptop charger, and that's it. If you went and plugged a hairdryer in, or a convection oven, or if you plugged the blender or something like that, it's going to fry it. It could do more damage to the vehicle, CPU, etc. Who knows what it's going to do, because you just look at it and say it's 240 volt. Now that applies to everything. So everything in your house, when you have a blackout, when you're talking about a power supply, is that, well, how long do you want to run things for? First thing people panic about is the fridge. Well, if you have a blackout, your fridge is still going to stay cold and your freezer will still stay frozen for 9-10 hours, probably no problem. Obviously, depending on the ambient temperature, but that's pretty typically okay. So you don't have to panic there. So how many watt or how many amp do you require for your backup? Do you want to keep running your plasma TV? Do you want to run your printers? Do you want to run your scanners? Do you want to run your office equipment, your lighting? Do you want to still run your air conditioning? Do you want to do all those types of things? If you say yes to those, let's talk about a conventional oven. If you're even talking about a hot plate that's electric, even a single hot plate itself might draw 600 or 700 watt. So that's just a hot plate. So if you've got one of the convention oven types, it might be, say, 1800 to 3000 watt. If you want a coffee machine running, that's going to be, say, 1800, could be 1600 watt. You need to look at the peak draw or that those accessories require to run. And then you've got to say, well, what type of size inverter have I got and how big is the battery pack? It's very common for people to see these and they'll say, great, I've got 4 of these in there, how good's that? And it's only small, so I can plug 4 things into it, that's great. But you still have a limitation. So you remember, if it's a 600 watt or say a 400 watt system, it might look, it's quite chunky, that looks great, and you'll get told, yeah, you can plug all these things into it. Well, that's fine, but there's still limitations to it. If it's only a 600 watt system, you can't go plug in, say, your plasma TV and a blender and your printer and everything else, and it's going to exceed its amount of overall wattage. So you need to ask those questions and then also, how long will it run? The plasma TV, say an 80-inch TV, that's probably going to run about between, say, 12 and 14 amp per hour. So if you've got a 40 amp or say 500 to 600 watt system, then that's only going to last you 4 hours, 5 hours at the most. So you want to go to 1000 watt. So if you wanted to replace the running of your house, if you had a blackout, you probably need something around the 5000 watt inverter mark. And a 5000 watt inverter, which is something you typically have in your house if you've got solar panels, you may have a bigger one, but a 5000 watt inverter is something you'd normally have in the house. And with the subsidies you have on at the moment with the government, you're probably better off putting a battery in your house. And then you might pay $2.5–3 grand for that battery. If you go and buy a standalone 5000 watt system, it's going to look great, but it's more like a UPS, which is an uninterruptible power supply like you'd have in a data center. Then something like that is not going to be portable. So it's not something you're going to be able to take down the beach unless you've got 4 or 5 mates going to be able to pick it up. That's probably going to be a 400 to 500 amp hour system. So if you imagine that in battery size, that's going to probably weigh a couple of 100 kilograms. So what is it you want to do and how long do you want to run it for? So when you go to these shows and you see all these whiz-bang power supplies, what does it do? How long will it last? And the questions to ask is not how long will my fridge run, and not how long, or how, can I run an induction oven? Can I do this? You need to be able to ask a smart question. You say, I've got an induction oven that draws 1950 watt. So how long will that system run, or can it run it? And what are these outputs rated at? And can I run 4 by, say, 2000 watt accessories at a time? And then you'll find the answer is no. You can run up to whatever the rating is of that battery pack. So you'll get 400, 600s, 1000s, you'll get 2000 watt systems, and so on and so forth. And then that will govern what size inverter you can run. So an example here in our systems, so you've got a Nomad V5.5 there, and that's got a maximum output of 50 amp. So we can quite happily run one of these, which is a 600 watt inverter. Now the 600 watt inverter, if I put that on, and I had a dual outlet there, I could quite happily keep my TV running. I can keep my FPOS machine running. I can keep my printer running. I can charge my laptop and all that. Same time, that's no problem. Would I run an induction oven on it? No, unless you get something that's rated correctly. So I wouldn't be running an induction oven on it. And if I need to run a hot plate, I'm just going to use a gas hot plate and be done with it. And that's what I do have as a backup, is a gas hot plate. So if I wanted to run my coffee machine, a coffee machine is going to be about 1800 watt. A microwave is going to probably be 1200 to 15 to 2000 watt. So if you want to run the day-to-day, everyday stuff in your house, dishwasher, washing machines, all those types of things there, if that's your plan, to be able to still run if you have a blackout for a day and a half or 2 days, you're going to have to look at something like a 5000 watt inverter. How many times do you have a blackout in the city? Don't know. Has it ever gone for longer than 5-6 hours? If it's not, then you don't have to really worry about that much and take the risk, or again, get yourself a power wall in the house and then upgrade using the battery subsidies from the government and take advantage of it. And then you've got that, which is not going to move anyway, because a 5000 watt battery system is not something that's going to be portable. The other option is you could run multiples of 100 amp hours that are portable, and then you could connect them together and have a bigger battery bank if that's what you wanted. The bigger systems, you might have something like that, and that can run, say, a 1500 watt inverter. So that's a 3000 watt inverter connected to that can only run 1500 watt. So that one, quite happily, I can run all those types of accessories still in the limit. Again, that's a 1500 watt. Would you run an induction oven? It depends on what the oven is rated. So we're getting a lot of questions coming up the show, which is, can I run an induction oven? Can I run my microwave? Can I do this? Can I do that? How long will my fridge run? These are all questions that how long is a piece of string? You've got to ask the right question, knowing what it is that you're trying to do. So what wattages and draws do your accessories use? And what is it you intend to use the power pack for? And what's its main purpose and focus? Is it going to be something that's got a multifunction? So is it going to be something you want to have portable and something you can use as a backup? The main things you're going to have to worry about in your house, again, are going to be things like your fridge. If it's a long-term blackout, yes, well, a long-term blackout with a fridge, if you've got a 600 watt inverter and you looked at a fridge, it's already cold. So even if it's a 200 litre fridge, it's only going to probably draw 10 or 15 amp, maybe even 18 amp. So again, it'll kick in, kick out. So, but again, you probably want to have at least 100 amp hour, but a 40 amp hour it still would suffice. But that's probably going to give you 3 or 4 hours after that fridge starts getting cooler. It needs to kick in with a thermostat. So these are just questions you need to ask. And if you've got like a home office, what does it need to continue running? Basically, you're looking at having UPS, or uninterrupted power supply, which is normally what offices have. So that's what you're treating a power pack as, or your power supply, and what we call as power distribution unit, which is all inclusive. So when you're at the shows, ask the right questions. Just don't get led down the garden path, because you won't walk out without spending less than $5,000, and you might be stuck with something you use once every 5 years, possibly, and never use it at all, and you can't use it for anything else. So it's just going to sit there. So make sure you get something that's fit for purpose and fit for what you want to do. So on the V5.5s that we do have, again, they are limited to 50 amp outputs, but we do have dual 50 amp output. They are 100 amp constant output. So you could run 2 600 watt inverters, one out of each of the outputs. You could run them quite happily and run them at max, and you could have 50 amp coming out of each. That's quite substantial when you start looking at things. The only thing at 600 watt, it's not going to run something like a microwave. It will run a blender, but its blender's going to be rated less than that. So the hand blenders, etc., they do work okay. But if you're running a Ninja 1000 watt, that's not going to work off a 600 watt inverter. The inverter will shut down and it won't like it. Battery will protect itself, but that's not the issue. One thing you've got to remember is inverters. Inverters do have moving parts, so they have fans inside. So what happens when they started running at full, which you never want to do, be running inverters completely flat out all the time. It's just not good. It's like running your car with the foot flat to the floor and running it redlining all the time. If you do that to an inverter, the same thing's going to happen. It's going to get really hot, and eventually it's going to fail. And if you've got inverters like this inside a box, that creates further heat. And that's why we don't put inverters inside any of our battery units, because if your inverter fails, you've now got a battery unit that you can't use it for anything, because now it's got to go back to get fixed because the inverters are gone. So unless the componentry can be just removed and replaced, but they're normally internally in the actual the casings, then you can't remove them as easy as that. So they're just some questions to remember: is what does it want to do? What's the function of it? and be specific about it, understand what the draw or what your accessories do draw. And the other thing that's important to note is that if you are at four-wheel drive and camping shows, is that look at the alternatives to all of your mainstream accessories. You can buy 60, 70, 80 inch plasma TVs that are low voltage now, that are 12, 24 volt, and they just draw next to nothing. You can get them now. You can get dishwashers that do the same. Dishwashers that only draw very, very small amounts, that are 12, 24 volt. There are alternatives to it. So instead of keep looking at, well, get bigger batteries, get bigger inverters, get bigger this, start looking at, well, why don't we start looking at more of the, something that is much more a cleaner energy aspect, is not drawing as much power or requires as much power to run. And then look at those alternatives that are much more efficient. And efficiency is what you really want to look for. So look, that was just more about inverters, not so much about the Nomad, but we get a lot of questions continually about inverters, about can you run this, how long would it run for? But again, without you telling us what it is you want to run, be specific about what does it draw. So if you said to me, how long is my fridge going to run? It's about 40 degrees outside. I'm going to run a freezer. It's a fridge freezer, and it's going to run -15 one side, and it's going to run that on that side. I'm going to fill up the cold stuff first and get it cold before I leave, and it draws X amount per hour, and that's what it says on the rating when you look at that. That's a good question to ask, and I can tell you how long it is because I can mathematically work it out and tell you. So a lot of people just look at it and go, I thought it would it'll last longer than that. And I say, well, how many amp hour does it draw? Oh, it draws 4 amp an hour. Okay, so 4 amp an hour, if you had 40 amp hour, how long is it going to last? Don't know. It's going to last you 10 hours. You can't change the math. It is what it is. And that's at 100% DOD. So that's just some things to understand, to know. If you do have any questions that are related to that before the show's coming up, just email us at contact@nomadpdu.com.au. Ask the question. If we know it, we'll help you out. If not, we can ask our engineers, just so you get the right information. We get it all the time. It shows where people end up leaving, spending a hell of a lot more money than they have because they haven't asked the right questions. They end up with a product that doesn't do what they thought it would do, or they were told it would do. So again, I hope that helps you out. Have a good time with the show. Any further questions, again, contact@nomadpdu.com.au. And also the V5.5s are available, 100 amp hours are available at the moment. So if you're interested in one of those, contact@nomadpdu.com.au, and we'll be able to help you out. So and we'll be able to do something with those as well.